So Amplio is different in several ways. And one is, of course, the content. It's the only pattern language approach. The closest thing to that is TameFlow, which I highly recommend. I mean, I guess he and I are competitors in some ways, but I love Steve Tendon's work. So we really just feel we cooperate with each other and recommend each other's work. In some ways, his work's actually more advanced than mine. And but mine's more for the, not the masses, but I think it's easier to grasp and gives more tools. Of course, that may change because, he's working with somebody on things. But Amplio has got maybe 3 or 4, and I'm going to cover each one of them, but in different ways, 3 or 4 differences from other approaches. One is the content. It's based on flow, lean, theory constraints, inherent simplicity, which comes from Ellie Goldratt's The Choice, and a fair amount about organizational development and human behavior. So from a content point of view, it's based on these first principles. There's that structure that's considerably different. The reason for that is there's no set way to do things. But on the other hand, you need to have the ability to create a easy start. So that's built into the pattern language structure. So even though it's very flexible and you can do anything, there are easy start methods. You can even have a default start that's similar to Scrum or a default start that's similar to Kanban, but then you can go as you grow and learn. There also are some fairly unique, I say fairly unique because TameFlow has some of them, the minimum business increment concept, some value creation structure concepts to organize teams better. The value stream impedance scorecard, which is how you can tell if something's an improvement or not. Those are somewhat unique to Amplio, but perhaps so you have the structure that's different. You have some practices that are different, but what's really different is my emphasis on Miro boards. In fact, maybe I wasn't going to start with this, but maybe I'll pull it up just so you can get the sense of it. The Amplio Development Masterclass Workshop is, you can just get this on our site, but what we have done is literally built like a dozen Miro boards that do different things. Like, what are your challenges? What are the first principles? The first principle is something that stands on its own, like delays cause waste. Delays in workflow cause waste. Working on too many things causes delays in the workflow, causes multitasking. These are basic kind of, you could say, the laws of product development. It's based on these things. And what the core of the course is actually these dozen Miro boards, because you have to learn incrementally. That's the other big thing, is you cannot have these 2, 3, 4 days. You just blast it through. You lose too much information. So the workshop is also based on how you learn. Now, this is obviously this is a seminar really is more also about the workshop and the approach. So I'm going to be intermixing the two, because you could, if you don't want to take the workshop, that's great. The book is out there. So I've got, this also comes from the Success Engineering. You simply go to books and click it. And there's a PDF. It's about 90% done. I'm still working on it. And the way you navigate this thing is if I give you the name of a chapter. This is unfortunate. I can't have an outside link to an inside chapter. But the good news is that the table of contents comes up and I can hop around however much I want to. So that's kind of what I do, is just go in through the table of contents and hop around that way. So there is the structure, there is added content, but what I think is really the biggest difference is the way it's taught over time. Now, the workshop is actually 12 weeks with about 3 hours a week commitment. There are 2 sessions each week. They're all recorded. They're all live, but I mean, then they're recorded. So I teach them all. But the real idea of the workshop is not how do you follow something, or rather not the workshop, Amplio, how do you follow something? It's more, how do you learn a core set of knowledge so then you could figure out the rest, but not have to reinvent the wheel. In other words, I know you can't cover everything, and I don't intend to cover everything. It's not possible. But can you cover enough so that when you need something, you know you need something, and you know where to look to get it, and it provides you tools. So I thought, because of the structure of the workshop's different, because the way we deliver the workshop's different. And by the way, a lot of these are available for free. So I am talking about the workshop, but the book's free, and that's the basis of the Amplio approach. So you could literally read that. Things like the challenges board. Some of these are also free. How to Run Cafe Conversations is free. Doing a pre-mortem. In fact, I just did that on the Amplio Community Practice, which is free. We ran and did these two, and you can get the mural board. You know, we call them Mural Mondays every other Thursday, which was this morning. I delivered this on the Monday before. We kind of give you the mural boards, and then we go over them. There are two at different action after action reviews are given, and then the wrap-up boards and Slain Site. So a lot of this stuff you can actually do on your own if you don't want to spend the money to be with me. But the main thing is the structure of learning. You learn a little bit, you use the first principles. Now, what I wanted to do, instead of talking anymore, I wanted to go through 4 boards and actually have us get a taste of it by doing it, because there's no way you're going to understand all the details I could provide, but I want to show the learning mechanism of what's there about what Amplio is. And I'm just going to do a quick overview of the 4 boards we're going to talk about, and then we're going to do them. We have enough people to go through them. So this first one, and each of these, by the way, I want to show you this. If you, here, let me actually share this board. Let me share this board, put this in the chat. Okay, so just go to the chat and click on the board I just gave. And let me show you a couple of things. So first of all, when you come in, you're probably going to come up with something like this, and it's going to tell you to click on this over here down on the bottom. So click down here. And what that does is it opens up this set of frames. And the cool thing about the frames, I can navigate. I have this one called boards. These are the 4 boards I'm going to go through. We're on the challenges board. These are the purposes and instructions, but I'll talk to you about this. You don't need to read this. There's a challenges section, and I'll show you what this is. There's a friend, ignore this one. I don't use it. It's just some historical thing. So this is the way Amplio is designed. It's actually designed around collaboration. It's suggesting that you really can't work well if you can't collaborate. It also suggests that that just knowing the techniques of it are insufficient, that you also have to know how to coach in it. So the book is kind of interesting, and this I've gone all full circle around on this, but I'm very happy with it now. The book starts out with, here's like what's needed. You know, we talk about Amplio, its foundation, its theory and stuff. And then we go through, I have identified about 2.5 dozen capabilities, as I call them. So instead of saying you have to do this, this, or that, what you really do is I teach you something to, like you have to accomplish this objective type thing. So we go through all these. I'm not going to go through all of what they are. It's not really important. But then I have what's almost another book. I call it Being a Professional Coach. And at first this was going to be a separate book. But if you cannot convey ideas, so this is a core aspect of Amplio. If you cannot convey certain ideas, then learning them doesn't do you any good. Because unless you're just working by yourself. And that's not what Amplio is. It's intended to be a team or organization-wide basis. So this has it built in as well. So here's what I want to do. So what we start with when we do an engagement, and part of the system is, part of Amplio is, you have to decide where you are. You don't just say, I've got this approach, I've got this solution. In fact, there's a chapter in the book that says, understand your problems before you offer solutions. Now, this is not quite the Kanban method. The Kanban method goes a little further. The Kanban method says see where you are and then start where you are. I suggest you see where you are, and you may or may not start where you are. Sometimes at the beginning, you have an opportunity to make a dramatic shift, but you only do that after you know where you are and you know this is the right dramatic shift. Okay, this actually comes from lean or human development. In lean, there are two methods in lean. The one that everybody knows because it's in Kanban was called Kaizen, small change. But there's also what's called kaikaku. Okay, these are two of about the half dozen Japanese words I know. And kaikaku means abrupt change. And I've heard stories of lean senseis going in and doing dramatic things. And so the question you want to do in Amplio is decide, am I going to do small change or going to do a large change? To do that, I need to know what my problems are. So we're going to do this board right here, okay? So the purpose of this board, and you should be able to get to this board. In fact, I gave that link, so go there. And when you get there, I should be able to see that you're there. But let's see, I think, yeah, there we go. Okay, so let me explain what this board is. You'll see there are 5 main columns. These columns on the left with stickies are just so you can like touch this, click on it, and move it. So you might all practice picking a sticky and moving it into the right column, just as a practice thing. So you got to click on it and then you drag it. Yeah. The idea is this: the way you see where you are is first, we start with challenges. What are your challenges? Now, I use the word challenge intentionally instead of problem. See, because problems are really just kind of by themselves. I got a problem. Like there's a flashing blue light in my rear view mirror. Except, you know what? That may not really be a problem. If I'm trying to get to the hospital and I don't have a 4-wheel drive and it's snowing, that might be, oh, thank goodness there's a policeman behind me. He can take me to the hospital. Okay, so problems are actually things that you're labeling some activity as. What I like about the word challenge, it says I'm trying to get something done and I'm challenged in doing it, something's stopping me. So inherent in a challenge is this notion I have a commitment, I have an intention. So the first thing we want to do, and I'm going to tell what this is, and we're going to do this exercise, is we want to put our challenges in. Then what we do is we say, how can we overcome these challenges? Okay, and sometimes nobody knows. Why are we not overcoming the challenges? We don't know. Management won't let us. We're infighting ourselves. What principles are we violating that's causing these challenges? Now, this is early. So normally what I do is I do this exercise twice. I do it once for 1 through 1, 2, and 3. And then this is one of the big things in Amplio. I know we're not a deterministic system. I know you can't say do this, do this, do this, do this. I mean, I've been doing software development 52 years. I know this. The exception is when you have 2 or 3 days of programming. I can do that. But beyond that, if it's a project, a product, you don't know. So I'm going to suggest, however, there are many things you can do that'll improve things. And you know that, and they're based on what's causing them. So we're going to do that in the second example, and then we can decide on action. So what's cool here is this board is a way for us as a group to say, what are our challenges? What can we do? Why are we not doing it? What are we violating, which we'll learn in the Amplio system? And what action items are we going to take? So I'm going to give you all 3 minutes. And questions. What I want you to do is I want you to take red stickies and put them in this column. 1 row for 1 problem. So if somebody grabs one of these and moves it there and you want to do something, just do it in another column, another row. Okay, so I'm giving you 3 minutes and then we can come back and you can ask me questions while you do this. Now you can just, of course, make these up for some project you've had. You would normally do this at a team level, or you can do it across teams, or you can do it even at an organization. Any group of people that have a cross interest, you can do this for. And that's explained up in the instructions.
So you're asking to just be inventive, like my problem is my elephant.
Well, I'm sorry, I can't hear you, whoever's talking.
I said it was Simon, and I'm asking, you're just inviting us to make up some problems.
Just put one up there that's real, but for some past project.
Oh.
Yeah, you would normally do this if the simulation here would be as if we were truly on a team together trying to do this and figuring out what's going on. Or it could be a couple people from different teams working together. How do they work together? But I'm teaching you the easy one first. Now, here's a side benefit. Let's say somebody put restructuring teams are making everyone unsure of their role. And let's say, oh, I have that too. I could drag a black dot on top of it to demonstrate that. Or maybe I don't have it a lot. I have it a little bit. I can do a little one of those. So those can just get dragged on so you don't duplicate it.
Interesting that pretty much everybody chose to say something about resource availability.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of core issues that are there because there are some key missing things in the agile space. In fact, I'm going to actually just put it down here. Things I have found as far as why there's the lack of value stream management. There's lack of good agile artifacts. MVPs are great, but they're about creating new things. They're not about how do I enhance an existing thing. So like in both the discipline agile and in Amplio Dev, we have what we call minimum business increments. There's the decision of flow or time boxing, this debate between Kanban and Scrum. And the reality is there's a practice underneath it. So a lot of these common things happen because they're not an attention to how to manage WIP. Each of these without good values, without good artifacts, you can't really get good prioritization or a common understanding of things. So that's not surprising. Okay. So what we would do in the real life situation, and again, the real life situation, these are 4 different ways we've used these. I'm pretending we're doing this first one, used by a single team to discover their challenges. That's a common way. But sometimes you can have multiple teams doing this as a retrospection where everybody can see what everybody else's challenges are. You're just doing it so you get cross learning. Or sometimes you can have multiple teams doing this where they're talking not about how their team works, but rather how do they work with other teams and what the challenges are with other teams. And finally, you can do this across an organization. Okay, so it's kind of a cool technique. It allows for asynchronous learning, as I call it, asynchronous collaboration. Okay, so what we would now do, we're not going to do it here because I'm just trying to give you an overview and a sense of what's happening. We would now go through and we talk about these. If 2 turned out to be the same, we'd consolidate the rows. It's easy to move them, things like that. Oops. Miro has a funny thing. If you don't want it to expand like that, you've got to hold the control key down or something. And I forgot to do that. Okay, so we're going to do 2 more columns and then we're going to go to the other boards. Then we're going to come back here. So one of the other columns is, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. So again, I skipped the part where you would actually talk about this amongst each other. You got what that would look like. But do you see how we can overcome these challenges? Now, whereas we only have 1 Should probably make that thin because I only want one red bar in the challenge. You can have as many greens as you want. So let's take a couple minutes. Maybe I'll give you 3. Take 3 minutes to, do you see a way to fix these? And ask questions if you're not sure what it is. And put some potential solutions there. Now, these could be things you know how to do, but you're not doing. It could be things you are doing. And try to get something in every row, but maybe we don't, because maybe we have no idea how to do this. What metrics to use? Well, we don't know. Maybe we do. Cool. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm going to just bump up this time. These are good. I want you to just might as well merge them together. I split out the second and third column, but I just added 3 minutes. Go start adding in the third column. Don't go to the fourth or fifth yet, but you can start the challenges board with working on these 3 columns. I like to get the focuses on the challenge first and then do second and third like I'm doing it. It just seems to work better, but there's no hard and fast rule here. You could do all 3. You can do 1, 1, 1. It's up to you, but I'm just trying to give you a way I do it. Not that it's right. Be right back. You keep going. Okay, another minute. You guys look like you're doing great. Okay. Questions, comments, just feedback? Okay, let me point out one other thing about this. And this is part of the reason for using these mirror boards. In today's global world, and not just because we're remote now with COVID a lot, most companies have teams scattered across more than even 3, 4, or 5 time zones. So this is designed to work in what I call asynchronous collaboration, meaning let's say, well, Simon, you're in Edinburgh. I'm here. It's my mid-morning. It's your late day. What if you were a little further east? See, I could have part of the team do this, and then your team could do it the night or the next morning. Then we could come back. And it could be that we want to find a time where we're together for 30 minutes, which would be a good idea. But you could actually see how this provides a way to communicate with where we are across the world. And that's an intentional design of it. Yeah,
That's been the norm for 20 years, though. I mean,
absolutely.
not though, but I haven't worked on a project in more than 20 years where everybody
Well,
was in the same time zone.
yeah, well, it's more widespread, but you're right. It's an old issue. The point is people don't solve it. What they do is they say, oh, we'll put everything in Jira and we can see what's going on. And my test, yeah, I see you're nodding and laughing. See, my test, when I go into a client, in fact, this is another idea. I keep dumping these in the workshops and stuff. I keep dumping these little coaching tips. And here's another one. See, I don't believe people can see anything about what's going on in Jira, to be candid. Not picking them out, well, picking them out, but they're pretty much for all the tools. Okay.
There was a great quote last year about the definition of agile now is doing half of Scrum and using Jira.
Well, anyway, what I do when I go into a place and I say, can you see what your work is? He said, oh yeah, we got it in Jira. I said, okay, great. Show me all the initiatives that are being worked on. 15 minutes later, they can't find them. Okay, well, it's not really visible then. I know it's in there someplace. It's got to be accessible, not potentially. Oh, that's a nice line. Has to be quickly accessible, not potentially visible. Okay, so at this point, I stop. I mean, the way it's taught is over time. Now, one of the things about Amplio is it's based on first principles. Oh, let me show you how you can move around. So here's the board. Go to boards, click on first principles, and then this pops up. Click on that. And it'll load this board. Come down here, open this up. This board, see what I'm trying to do, I could talk to people, I can do PowerPoint presentations, but it's really surprising, at least for me, it was surprising. It's not surprising now, but there are things people already almost know. So I figured I'll just mention it and they'll know it. And that's not bad. But what's better is to set up a board where they figure it out themselves. Not so much so they won't resist it, not so much so they'll absorb it, but they understand it better when they take that tacit knowledge and make it explicit themselves. So one of the cores of Lean and Amplio. We just got somebody new. Let me just jumping in. But great. Let me give you the mirror boards. Here, you can click on that link I just gave you. Instead of talking so much about Amplio, we're actually walking through some of the way it teaches. And what you want to do is the link, I forget, let's see, well, what link? Just click on it, right? This will take you to the challenges board, but what we're on is the first principles board. So David, once you're on there too, get off there so I can tell it's you, because just move your cursor off that boards thing. David, you're wherever you have the challenges board, you have your cursor on that board thing. Good, thank you. So when somebody's on, I won't let somebody else use it. I thought maybe I didn't lock this. Yeah, my mistake. I didn't lock it. If I'd locked it, it wouldn't have caused that problem. Okay. So just go ahead and take first principles. If you click it, oh, well, does it not let you go when it's locked? Oh, crap. I didn't realize that. No, yeah, just click it, click to that board, and now you're on the first principles board. Okay, now the way I use first principles, the way I educate again, is, there's this, we eliminate waste, optimize the hull, there's all that. And I'm not going to go through this TPS view. I love the total production system. I love this, but what I want to do is I want to interactive now. Well, am I in the right place? No. I want to go here. Where's no. This is weird. Just a second. Sorry, I thought I had this all set up. Oh, I have them out of order here. Let's go to the questions. So I want to do 3 questions here. The first one is, what does waste look like in knowledge work? Now, when I mean knowledge work, I'm using Peter Drucker's definition of where, it's basically using your brain instead of your hands. If you know more than the manager, your knowledge worker. So product development, project development, things like that. So I just want you to copy, basically, just drag these over here. I forget the new person's name. Uladzimir. What you do is you just put the cursor on a sticky, you drag it, click it, and type. So what does waste look like? Working on things not needed, fixing bugs, whatever it is. So I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes. What I'm trying to do here is have people see from their past experience what's causing them problems. Actually, pause for a second, because, well, no, just go do this. I'll wait till you put some things in and I'll explain this, because there's something very significant here that has been left out by many people in Agile. Okay. So I'll just make a small point first that some of these are causing waste, aren't waste themselves. But that's kind of the point. We sometimes don't make that distinction between what is waste and what's causing the waste. And I think that's important because it gives us this kind of disciplined way of looking at it, gives us some power. But here's the other thing I want to point out, because I hear this mostly in the Scrum community, but it's kind of seems general that you have to follow until you understand, and then you could do things. And I really hate that. I've hated that for years because XP said that for a while. Okay, we got somebody new. I'm going to give you a board to come into. We're actually kind of more working on things. I have to keep putting it in. So just watch my screen, but go ahead and pull that board up and I'll show you what you want to do, excuse me, to get to the board yourself, which you'll have to do is if you click that board, I'll do it myself. So I come in, so watch my screen. I'm coming in and I get this. Then what I want to do right now, we're on the first principles board. So just click first principles and go to this, or here, I'll give you this direct link just in case that didn't pop up, and this will bring you in with everybody. Here we go. Okay, so I'm here. What we're doing here is I want to point out that we may not know what Agile is. We may not know what Scrum is. We may not know what Amplio is, but we know what this is. Okay, we've had experience of this. And even if we don't know how to solve it, we've had experience of this. See, when you violate a first principle, you get bad results, and you have the experience of those bad results, even if you don't know the first principle. They come in. Delays cause waste. Great. If you have delays in your workflow, you have an experience of delays causing waste, even if you do not know what practices will get you out. Do you understand how this, looking at results and then going to principles, enables us to talk to people who have no experience in our approach, but do have experience in doing development. And this idea that you have to just kind of follow and try it until you understand is, in my mind, demeaning and disrespectful. So what I want to do now is I'm just going to give you 2 minutes. Well, maybe I'll give you 3 minutes. I think we're okay on time. Yeah. Is we've identified what waste looks like. What's causing that waste? Now, maybe you don't know, but maybe you do. But let's look. Waiting. What's causing waiting? Actually, what causes waiting? Why are people waiting? Are people waiting? What are they waiting for? You want to tell somebody? Tell me who put that down. What are they waiting for?
Oh, yes, waiting for either, I mean, process-based or waiting for, because the overload is there of the teams.
So they're waiting for somebody to help them, but the person's busy doing something else. Yeah. Okay, great. So that's waste. I'm waiting, and that causes additional waste too. So like not considering quality from the beginning will actually cause waste. I would actually suggest this might be a causes waste. Bad quality is waste, perhaps. But anyway, so what I want you to do now is I'm going to give you 3 minutes. What causes waste? And you could look at these things here to see what's causing waste. And just go for it. Add some more. See, I think people, it's not so much that you can figure this all out yourself. I mean, maybe. It took me a long time. So, I mean, but I'm slow. And sometimes when somebody else has figured it out, it takes less time to refigure it out. But do you notice that you do have some sense of what's going on here? That's really the point. And you're writing down some key things. And there is a kind of cause and effect, even if not the whole system isn't deterministic. The fact that we can see the more waiting, the more waste. The more overloaded we are, the more waiting, the more waste. Is that kind of clear? See, this gives us a way to look at what's going on, which I'm about to get to. We got this for 3 minutes. I'll tell you what, I'm going to just bump this up to a total of 6 minutes. Do about 3 minutes. You can see the timer on the right. Do about 3 minutes on what causes waste, then go down to what can we do to eliminate waste. Now, you may not know these yet because I haven't taught you the Amplio, but you can see the connection between them. And at any time, if you want to talk or ask a question, just do that. Otherwise, I'm just here waiting. Right back. Okay. Let's just see where we were. Oh, we didn't do anything to eliminate it. So did you guys just stuck here? You didn't hear me say to go down? Oh, Yasser's here. Yasser here. Go ahead, just if you want to follow along, but you're in the middle. We're actually working through some parts of the workshop. You can join in. But just to let you know, and I am recording this, so if you want to later look at it and catch up. So did people that's okay that you took the time, but I was hoping you'd get down to that next one. So we have the what causes waste. Sure. Okay, so look, I need you to look to see though about eliminating waste. So I tried combining the two. So Yasser, what you can do, let me just show again, if you came in, if you have the left bar like this, what you need to do is click on this to get the wide bar. And these are frames. We're currently looking at the eliminate. What we had done before, you can go through these yourself. What does waste look like? What causes waste? You could review those, and I'm going to give you all 3 minutes to go in. What do we do to eliminate waste? The way this works is you just click on this, drag it, and then start typing. So Yasser, after you review to see where you are, you can start doing that. You can message me in the chat too. Yeah, and you should have the mirror board now. Or did I not give it to you? I thought I did. Let me give it to you again.
Is it the same board, Al, we were discussing in the morning?
No, this is a different
This is
one.
different,
This
okay.
is the
Okay, I got it
challenges
now.
board. I just put it in the chat. So click
Yeah, I
on
got
that.
it now. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Really nice. Okay, yeah. Okay. So this is good, but there's still the question, what can we do to eliminate it? I mean, how do we do this? How do I clarify objectives? How do I provide clear priorities? So there are 2 ways to go. And I don't know, in teaching, I've kind of done both, but in reflection and doing this exercise, the question arises, is there a set of things we could look at? Okay, so why don't we stop right now? We don't need it anymore. Is there a set of things we could look at that would help us answer these questions? So that's a powerful question. There's a big difference of opinion in it as well. I want to be very clear about this. In fact, in the book, I have a whole chapter. It's short, a few pages, but this is a fundamental, I'm not even sure it's more than a page, but this is a fundamental question that the community, the Agile community, is split on. Scrum is based on empirical process control and complex adaptive systems. And the sense there is, there may be cause and effect we can look at, but it's not something we can drive from. Then there's another crew, which I'm in, based on a lot of theory constraints and Ellie Goldrat's work, which believe there are core things we can look at that actually give us insights into the entire realm of things, okay? And Goldrat calls this thing inherent simplicity. And in a nutshell, you don't really need to understand inherent simplicity, but it's the basis if you're interested in the theory underneath Amplio. This is a significant piece of it. It's that there are a few factors, relatively few, that drive things. And remember, I'm in knowledge work. I'm not trying to explain everything everywhere. I'm not looking at nuclear reactors or, you know, global economics or what happens when a pandemic hits. I'm talking about building products for customers in the world. And I'm not going to go into that complexity bit too much, but there is a chapter on it in the book again. So the question is, are there a few factors that work together? It's called inherent simplicity. It's based also on Newton's idea that nature is kind of in harmony with each other. We can look at to tell what's going on, because if there are, then what we can do is start looking at these and in fact create some practices consistent with them. So I literally spent, I don't know, 14 years looking for these suckers, I guess is one way to say it. And it wasn't until I had read Goldrat's book that I really got clear on it. I'm going to go over it. And there's again, even another exercise which goes over these, which you don't have time, but you're getting the idea of how you learn. So I'm going to talk directly to what these are, and look at my screen. And I called it, the notion of the value stream impedance scorecard was a concept I came up with a decade ago. And the idea is very simple. You've had the experience of it, whether it was explicit or not. You ever go into a place the first time, you talk to people and you say, wow, these guys have their act together. This is really cool. Assuming you're right. You know, there's some things you tacitly looked at. And sometimes you go into a place and say, how did these guys get anything done? Again, tacit information. I'm suggesting that there are things we know intuitively, but I've made a study to identify what they are to make them explicit. In other words, one of them is our small items of high value being worked on. If there aren't, it's a problem. Are delays in the workflow being managed by reducing queue size and avoiding handbags? If they're not, it's a problem. Are we getting quick feedback? If not, it's a problem. And I'll let you read the other 6. I tried to keep it as small as I could, but I couldn't cover sufficient information without all 9. And then you should ask questions if they're not clear, but most of these are pretty clear. Now I'm suggesting 3 things here. One is you could tell these from your past experience. You don't need to believe me. You could teach it that way too. Remember when people were working beyond their capacity, how much trouble you had? No, okay. There's also, notice this is a measure of effectiveness. It's not telling you how to get there or what management or cultural things will stop you from getting there. I admit I have to add that. Right now, that's kind of in the coaching thing. So what I'm going to suggest is if these things are, you're saying good to, you're more effective. And if you're saying bad to, you're not effective. And if you're having troubles with something, like let's say you're having troubles with stories at the end of a sprint, having too many of them, then I'm suggesting you are violating some of these, and something you can do, like maybe you're committing too much. Okay. So what we have now is a basis to tell if something's good or bad. Now, I still have to give you the stuff to do the workshop, but this is partly what I start out with, is this is an understanding of how we can measure and guide ourselves. Now, I'm not going to go through all the things, but I will point out in my book, I have them. That's what these capabilities are that are listed. Now, the way I got here, I didn't just dream this stuff up. What I did for years, I mean, well over a decade, and actually Amplio is my 4th or 5th attempt at this. DAV, the Discipline Agile Value Stream Consultant work, Amplio takes it another step further. But I had 2 or 3 failed attempts before then. I mean, they worked, they just weren't up to the snuff I wanted. Was what I realized is there are some things we need to do regarding artifacts. What I looked at when I literally studied hundreds of failures and success, that you needed this ability, you needed these capabilities, as I call them. And when it came to managing the workflow, you needed these capabilities. And when it came to the quality of the product, you needed these capabilities. Okay. And in fact, somewhere I have a list of all these. They're all listed somewhere in just a table, but you get the idea of it. So then what Amplio is, now that we said, here's how you can see what's going on, here's how you guide us. Now here are capabilities, or each capability is stated in a particular way. Oh, this is an interesting one, like know how to select a more appropriate practice. So it's like you say what it is, why is this important, how to implement it, when in this case using time boxing or flow. Sometimes it makes a difference whether you're using time boxing. So I have an explanation when I'm time boxing, sometimes I have an explanation when I do flow. This is how you improve your practice. This is how you tell if it changes better. See the scorecard? I think I've added one extra one here. You can use the value stream impedance score. Did I cut delays out? Am I working on more important things? Am I getting quicker feedback? Now, here's the rub. It doesn't mean if you have a positive value stream impedance scorecard and you do it, that it'll work. In the same way, if you have a boat with 2 holes in it and you plug one, it doesn't stop you from sinking. Multiple things can be going on. Plus, sometimes you can't implement it because people resist it. See, the biggest problem isn't knowing what to do internally. The biggest problem is getting people to do it. But my assertion is that, in fact, there is this kind of underlying cause and effect. And when there's something you didn't see, in fact, I didn't say this, it's on one of those boards, but I'll mention it now. The approach Amplio is based on what's called systems thinking. The best book on systems thinking, but it's a little hard to read, is The Fifth Discipline. It's years old, it's still valid, and systems thinking does incorporate complexity. A really good resource, and I have some resources boards for these links as well. A really good resource is I can't think of his name. Akoff, Russ Akoff. He's just brilliant. Well, he was brilliant. He passed away years ago. He talks about systems are more about the relationships between things than the things themselves. Like a car is not a transmission and an engine and a body. It's rather the relationship between all of those things. You could get the best components of best cars, put them together, you have a pile of junk. They have to work together. And complex systems are where those relationships aren't clear. So what you do with what I'm talking about is you can get some relationships seen, some aren't seen. So when you do what I'm talking about here, it may be an improvement, it may not be. It may not be an improvement because there might be other things going wrong, and it may not be an improvement because there's a relationship you don't see because the system's complex. But now you've seen it, you've seen the effect of it, you learn. So integrated with Amplio is learning mechanisms. In other words, it's not just a question of what are the practices. It's not just a question of the practices. It's also a question of how we learn. We have a whole chapter on that in terms of learning methods. See, this is the big comment right here from Deming. Experience teaches nothing. In fact, there's no experience to record without theory. Without theory, there's no learning, and that is their downfall. People copy examples and then wonder what is the trouble. They look at examples and without theory, they learn nothing. So Amplio is based on the notion you have to have empiricism and rationalism. You have theory and you have practice. The two go together. I've gone through a lot of the theory with you because I just wanted you to get that we spend some time on this. but then we go through, there's another piece of things. So then we go through, like I do talk about how you change value creation structures and things like that. Okay, so I think I'm going to show you what some of these boards, those of you who've been here the whole time, you can get some sense of it. Let me show you what some of the exercises are. So, well, we're not going to do this, but these are boards I literally use in the workshop. So one of the things is, after we've gone through this and I've talked about this, we actually go through each of these vectors. Like, what does working on small items give us? What does it happen if we don't? What about managing queues? These are those value stream impedance. And this brings the learning in, because you do it yourself. You're not just talked to, like I know I'm talking to you a lot, but you get the idea of the boards. Okay. By the way, this is a great collaboration technique, because you see what other people think, you see what you think, you can now talk about those differences. Okay. And then I have a little bit more information. Let me think. That this is most of the boards. I have some other stuff here, but it's not really that interesting. Oh, these are two other questions though, because this, we talk about optimizing. See, sometimes optimizing one part of the system is not a good idea. So these two are kind of interesting questions. If we know local optimization is bad, then sometimes when is local de-optimization good? See, I'm wanting to get people to think. Okay. Now, we don't just do this though, because we have to also be having the practices, which I'm not going to go through. You can look at it in the book if you're interested, but we do provide that. Okay, so let's see. So we've done this. I've done the poster. Have I done the delays? Oh, I think I have a bad link for delays. Oh yeah, I just have some more exercises. With when do delays cause this problem? When don't they cause us problems? Things of that nature. Okay. I'm going to stop now and get feedback and answer questions.
Oh, yes, it is understandable and very nice. I'm enjoying, that's why I'm here. So yes, very nice. Great.
Anybody else? Oh,
Hi, it's
yeah.
Ben. One comment that I feel is that although from my experience, I'm familiar with all the challenges and the attempts to solve them, I think it is rather complex for people who may not understand complex systems or may not have experienced complex systems to really grasp this.
Ah, okay. Well, let's actually talk about that, because I think complexity is a ruse, or it's not useful. Now, I know it's there. I'm not denying that. But I like you brought that up, because I totally agree with you. And I think trying to get people to understand complex systems is not a good way to do things. It's bad for a couple of reasons. One is, and let's see, actually, one is that there's I want to pull up something here. It may have it in this board. I may not. I may have to go to my source, but oh, I know where it is. No, let me go. There's this board I have where I put a lot of quotes. That's what I'm looking for. So I believe that the notion of trying to deal with complexity directly, or talk about complexity, I know this is kind of common in the Agile space, particularly with Kinevin. It's kind of why I'm kind of getting harangued a little bit. because I think Kinevin's got a lot of value to it, but I don't want to teach it to my people because it's a lot of extra days of work and they're not, like you say, they're not going to really get it too well. But I don't have to. This goes back to the gold rat thing. See, in this quote right here, the first and most profound obstacle is that people believe that reality is complex. This is a physicist, although he passed away, so it's not alive now. And therefore, they're looking for sophisticated explanations for complicated solutions. Do you understand how devastating that is? So I'm not trying to do that. I want to come up, remember, I'm in knowledge work. Knowledge work's kind of interesting. See, something like 3 Mile Island was some little thing happened, you couldn't see it, the interactions, some people say they were complicated, but actually the interactions were so immense, you couldn't really see what's going on. I would say it's complex. The human body is complex. You can't see all the interactions between things. The problem is, what is the result of this complexity? See, maybe we will never understand it. Maybe we don't even have to talk about it. Can we stop the bad result? This is my question. Can we stop the bad result complexity causes without understanding what's going on? And the answer is yes, you can. And the way, but not everywhere. No, not everywhere. It'd be an absurd claim. But in knowledge work, you can. And the reason is, if you look at what goes wrong in knowledge work, what goes wrong is usually some small thing happens and then it blows up to a big thing. We made a little error, but we misunderstood the customer, got out in the field, and now we've got to recall millions of things. The one-off error in programming is a classic case. I'm off by 1 byte and bam, my whole system goes down. So the question is, how do you make it so something that would be bad can be prevented? Again, not a universal solution. I'm just in knowledge work. Well, the answer is, do you do 2 things? Because if you look at where the disasters occur, there are always 2 things present. There are 3 things present. One thing is there's this possibly small event that happens, but the 2 things that happen about it is it becomes what's called a nonlinear event, like the straw that broke the camel's back. One little thing, bam, big thing happened. We have nonlinearity all the time. This is also called a chaotic event, not chaos, but chaotic event. These are around us all the time. What makes a chaotic event or a nonlinear event go bad is when there's not visibility, so we don't see what's going on, and there's tight coupling between the events. For example, a little scheduling thing. I used to joke that no project ever happened where it was 3 months late. We joke, oh yeah, well, how is it going? Well, we were great last week, but we've discovered something, now we're 3 months behind. Wait a moment. You can't go from being on schedule to 3 months behind. You were not on schedule a week ago. You just didn't know you weren't on schedule. Okay. So what we want to do in knowledge work is create visibility. And the way we create visibility in knowledge work is quick feedback. And those value stream impedance scorecard things are all about quick feedback. Work on small things, have things visible. Manage our work in process, stop making waste. So the way Amplio works with complexity is it says, because I'm doing knowledge work, what I need to do is focus on quick feedback, visibility, what's going on, the feedback gives me that. The decoupling of things. So I use pull. See, one of the problems with a push system is I push, somebody's not available, then you get this cascading error. So I don't talk about complexity, actually, except when people bring it up, or when people say, well, you got to use something like complexity theory. And I say, no, I don't. I recognize it's complex. I'm always in complex systems because I'm doing knowledge work. I don't know what's going on. So that you got to ask yourself, what 3, even of knowledge work, there are 3 domains of complexity. Not domains, 3 areas. One is my work. So if I work on big things, I'm not going to do well because I don't have small things where I can get quick feedback. Well, what about the product? We don't really know what the customer wants. So one thing Amplio does is it suggests we look at the customer journey. We watch to see the way the customer works. We look to see if there are ways to improve the way the customer works. That gives you huge insights on innovation. If you ask me, this is a better way. I mean, I like design thinking and all that. But if you focus on the customer journey instead of your system, you will get a lot of cool ideas. However, you still don't know. Now, this is where complexity really does come in. This is where you need safe to fail experiments. In other words, you do not need safe to fail experiments when it comes to your process. Value stream impedance scorecard tells us. Safe to fail experiments when it comes to the product, to the customer. You need less if you're attending to the customer journey. You need more, though. You need some. You never really know what the customer needs. You need to try things. You know, there's a third case to pay attention to, the complexity, black swan events. You can't predict pandemics. You can't predict the Ukraine war. Okay. I mean, maybe afterwards you can look back and see what happened, but you can't see it. So we have to recognize that outside of our company, things happen that we have no predictability about. It's just, I don't care what you're doing, you're not going to predict it. So given that, what do? What you do is you need to be able to respond. You need to be able to pivot quickly at low cost. Now think what we were talking about at the beginning. I'm trying to be efficient with working on small items with quick feedback to see what's going on. In other words, the idea of working in the way I'm talking about gives you the ability to pivot, which gives you the ability to respond to outside events. The whole process of quick feedback in the working cycle, quick feedback in the product discovery cycle, and quick feedback responding to the outside world are all based on the notion of you need to see what's going on and decouple the events. Now, this is not just my theory. In fact, I didn't even come up with this. I'm explaining it in knowledge work, but where this goes back to is Charles Perrow's normal accidents. And here I have a picture of his stuff somewhere in my book. I was reading a book called, I can't remember what it was called. It was a nice book. And he referred to normal accidents. It was about, I can't believe I can't remember the name of the book. Anyway, he refers to normal accidents. Normal accidents was by Charles Perrow, where he's the guy who studied 3 Mile Island, and he made this distinction I thought was really powerful. There are complex things, and then there are linear things. But then there are things where there's tight coupling and there's loose coupling. And I realized, this was before I read, well, actually it was when I read not normal accidents, but the book that was referring to normal accidents. And I realized that in R&D, we are in complex. We can't see what's going on, but we don't have to be tightly coupled. And that's what enables us to break the stranglehold complexity gives. Anyway, did that help? It was a long answer, but I think this is a really fundamental, and I have a chapter in the book on, in fact, this is the chapter right here. Dealing with complexity and knowledge work, where I go through this whole thing, okay? Oh, and I was being I don't know if this is good or just too wise ass. Are you trying to tell me I can understand complexity? No, Neo, I'm telling you that when you're ready, you won't have to. We know we're in a complex system, but the way we navigate it is discovery and working to fix errors when they occur. Man, now I'm really bugged by not knowing the name of that book. So did that help, or ask other questions, Ben?
Yeah, no, it helped, but there is an aspect that I don't think that we have an answer, and this is the emotional side of it, and this is accepting that.
Oh, okay, no, that I agree. So I'm sorry, I was going to say something about that and I forgot. So let me say something about that. Part of the reason this is important, let me go back to the quotes. See, this is what I really love about this thing with Goldratt is part of the devastation is, what does it do to us? See, this is one of my favorite quotes. The difficulty, and this is what you're referring to, the difficulty is if I'm not really sure that a second effect exists. In other words, because it's complex and I go, I might stay inside my normal thinking and not go outside. See, comfort zones are actually what cause the problems more than control. So what I'm suggesting we do, we talk to management, we talk to executives, we give them a way to get their hands on the steering wheel, knowing it's not perfect, knowing that this is a learning experience, but that we can get all the pieces that we need to know. We talk about small, fast, visible. We talk about the value stream, the Amplio is based on the value stream. So we present them a model. And I really like you bringing this up because I don't think I play this up enough. I mention it in some quotes, but what I really need to do, So Amplio has a way of explaining this. In fact, go to the book again. Part of what I said you need to do in the book is not just know things. You need to know how to explain things. So you might look in the book on this. Here's what I would suggest you do. Go to the book, look for getting executives done agile by talking about value streams. And then in here, there's another article I wrote for Cutter. Where is it? Maybe just search Cutter. I know I have a reference to it here.
I feel I understand and I agree that the explaining is sometimes the harder things.
That's right. That's right. So I'm saying I have some articles on this. Okay. And I don't know why I don't have it in here. I should have a reference to Cutter. I was pretty sure I did, but here's how you can get there. Is if you go to the success site and you go to resources and you go to articles,
I'll find it.
You'll see an article to Cutter. That's exactly, see, this is, why leadership focus. So I'm not saying you do this and they'll agree, but it takes you a step closer to how to interact. And that's part of the book, part of Amplio. It's designed, what do you need to do? How do you convey what you need to do? Look, and some people it's not going to work with, and some people it will, but that's part of what we work on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And what I realized I want to do is I have a lot of articles, but what I want to do is create something that shows how you how all these pieces work together to create a better understanding. Okay, so we're just about done. Can you give me some? So if you're interested, I have a workshop coming up. I mean, this is obviously I'm trying to get people interested in the workshop, but I'm also trying to see how to better explain things. So if you go to Success Engineering, we have an Amplio Development Masterclass coming up. And, and you could, it says register, but I think it just takes you to the page. Yeah. Now, this is an intense workshop. It goes for 4 months, it says 12 months. It's got 3 4-month periods. The first one is a masterclass, meets twice a week for an hour, hour and a half. All the sessions are recorded, but they're live. And they go through this whole thing, the whole book. And then you also get 4 months of the Value Stream Coach Workshop, which is a follow-on thing, which gives you more coaching, some more Miro boards, things like that. And then you just get 4 more months. And the reason for this is this way, a lot of people cannot attend every session and they want to. So it gives you like 8 months to go through the 4-month materials. And then you just keep getting coached from me for, it's literally a year. The normal price is $11.95. Because you're here, I'll give a $200 discount if any of you decide to register in the next week or so. It starts October 2nd. Now, if you like it, but you don't want to do it, that's fine. Join the Amplio community of practice because that's free. And you can ask questions and do things. Or if you've taken the DAVSC workshop, you get into, I don't have it here, but there's this Value Stream Coach for 4 months that you get into that gives you more information as well.